Hello and welcome to another episode of Euro 2020 Happy Hour, and we're live. I've only got to say that one more time. One more time.
Well, at some point you'll work out when we are actually live.
Well,
You
I'm
won't just
waiting for
sit
my
there
face to pop up. Right, with myself, Sham, otherwise known as FPL Two Guys One Cup on Twitter.
and myself, Rob, otherwise known as FPL Panda.
Right, so it's semi-final night semi-final night, and it's part two. We'll get it right in the end. And we're going to be talking about Italy versus Spain in this episode. So without further ado, let me introduce you and welcome you back to two familiar faces, our Italian rep, James, and our Spanish rep, Raul. Welcome to you both.
Evening, guys.
Evening, guys.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good.
James?
Yeah, good. I didn't know which order we were going in. Yeah, really well, guys. Thank you for having me back.
And Raul, how are you?
Super. Looking forward for the game tomorrow. And again, thank you very much for having me.
Anytime, mate. Right, so let me just quickly talk you through the agenda of tonight, similar to the earlier one with England and Ukraine. So we haven't had James back. So he came back in match day 2, but we haven't seen him since talking about Italy. So we're going to talk a bit about the knockouts and how Italy have done, likes and dislikes of the side. And then we're going to do a review of the Italy-Belgium game. We'll then talk to Raul about the Switzerland game. We spoke to him on the last stream a few nights ago about how Spain have done so far. So we'll just literally talk about the Switzerland game. And then we'll preview Italy versus Spain. There's a few injury doubts, so no doubt that we'll have some discussion about who might be coming in. And then we'll go to some predictions and then look at Panda's pictures that we didn't touch on earlier. And then both James, Raul and Rob's thoughts on the semi-finals in terms of plans, personally, what they're looking to do. And then a Q&A. So if you've got any questions, leave them to the end if they're fantasy related. If they're not fantasy related, then drop them in now. And after we've spoken to James and Raul, we'll ask them those questions. Right. Starting with you, James. So talk to me about Italy. How have you guys done in the knockouts? And what's your likes and dislikes been about the side?
Yeah, so obviously last time I was here was the end of match week 2, or the end of Italy's match week 2. Beat Wales with a rotated team in match week 3, which guaranteed first place in the group. I don't think we can really take a lot from that. I think it was 9 or 8 changes in the end. And then played Austria in the first knockout round. And I think it was possibly the wake-up call Italy needed a little bit. I think we'd been very good through the group stage, but hadn't really been tested at all. And I think Arnautovic put the fear of God into Italy for 30 seconds while VAR was doing its thing. And kind of woke everyone back up. And then, ultimately the Austria game ran out pretty comfortably. I don't think it was our best game. I think it was probably 50-60%, but I think, as I said, that Arnautovic goal was what that Italy team needed. And then going into the Belgium game, I think we were, a lot of people had it as a 50-50. I think if we were to really look at it, I think Italy were favourites just because of Belgium's injuries. Obviously, there was no Hazard whatsoever, and for a lot of the week, there was a talk that there was going to be no Kevin De Bruyne. Obviously, he played in the end.
I read today he played with a ruptured ankle ligament.
Yeah, supposedly.
It's an interesting one for we're obviously not here to talk about FPL, but I thought, that's an interesting one for FPL, and quite impressive that he put in the performance he did in that game.
Yeah, he was on painkilling injections, and supposedly that's put him back 4 weeks. So I'm sure Pep Guardiola will be really happy with Roberto Martinez for that one. The former Wigan manager. I'm sure that Man City fans will really thank him for that. I think the Belgian game was probably us back to our best. I think it probably was our best performance. A lot of people before the game said how the aging pair of Chiellini and Bonucci are going to deal with probably Europe's scariest striker at the moment, second scariest striker in Lukaku, and I think we kept him pretty quiet most of the night. He should have scored at the back post when Spinazzola managed to somehow scramble it off his line, but except for that, I think we were comfortable. The goal we conceded is just, I don't think it's a 50-50 call on a penalty, but you have seen those not been given and you have seen them be given. And I think it was probably a sloppy mistake that could have cost us. But having that 2-goal buffer when it happened and it happening just for half time and having 15 minutes then to go in and reset and kind of compose ourselves again, I think was key. I think we saw the brilliance of Insigne again, another wonder goal. I think that man might have a big part to play in these next 2 games going forward. I think he's going to be missing his very, very able deputy that was playing behind him in Spinazzola, which is a big miss for us going forwards now with a completely ruptured Achilles. You saw how much it meant to him. He was in tears, being stretchered off, and I think they said he's going to be 4 to 5 months out now. So I think that's a big miss for us going forward. But except for that, I've heard that everyone's back, ready to go, full fitness. Bonucci, Chiellini are supposedly rested and all okay. Florenzi's good to go. And as I said, except for the penalty that Belgium scored, I don't really think they troubled us for a lot of the night. I think a lot of their opportunities came from outside the box or kind of lucky deflections, pot shots, that kind of thing. So feeling confident, but it's Italy. We could always blow up in our own faces before we get there. So we'll see what happens.
Is there anything in this side that you aren't happy with in terms of, injuries aside, the actual play? Is there anything that you've seen that, you don't do so well at, that Spain could give you trouble with, etc.? Or not just Spain, but any side in general?
I think the only thing that would worry me going forward in knockout football now is what I discussed when I came on in the preview, is the cursed number 9 shirt. And Mobley just hasn't really got himself into the tournament. As I said before, he's a different player in a Lazio shirt compared to an Italy shirt. And it's the same for Belotti, really. He's a different player in a Torino shirt compared to an Italy shirt. And I think not having a striker firing has been okay. I know we've seen Harry Kane now come into form for England, and Immobile could very well go and get a hat-trick at any point, but I just don't see it. And I think if there's one weakness people have probably picked up on that Italy team is that striker position isn't as big a threat as it could be, but I think there's enough goals in and around that side to kind of carry a striker that maybe isn't firing on all form.
Okay. Right, Raoul, let's come to you then. Let's talk about that Switzerland game. I'm guessing you were shitting yourself at penalties.
if there's one nation out there that doesn't have a good, we used to talk about England with a bad record at penalties. Spain's is, I think it's arguably worse, isn't it?
It was all the way up until 2008, but in 2008 we beat Italy in quarterfinals on penalty kicks. Then I think that in the World Cup, there was no shootout. But then in the Euro of 2012, we beat Portugal again in penalties. That was a very famous penalty shootout in which Cristiano Ronaldo was supposed to take the 5th one, but he could not take it, and he was quite pissed. And we won again in penalties. But yes, indeed, it was pretty scary moment to go into penalties. And also, you shoot the first one and you hit the post. That's not a good sign. So yeah, it was not an enjoyable moment. Let's keep it that way.
Let's take it a step back then, before we got to penalties. So what did you think of the game, how you played? Because at half time, there was some really weird, there was a weird substitution. Sarabia came out, and then 10 minutes later, Morata came out. What did you think was happening in that game, and why do you think those subs were made?
There are 2 reasons. The first one is that Luis Enrique has mentioned that all the players are ready to play 90 minutes, but he questioned if all the players are able to play 120 minutes. And we saw Morata against Croatia playing 120 minutes, being super tired in the second half of the extra time. So I think that was the reason for Morata to step out. And I do think that Luis Enrique was not expecting to go to extra time. And Sarabia apparently was part of an injury. But looking at the game, it was not a good game for Spain. And that's a little bit the 2 sides of the same coin that the media is talking about right now. Not only the media, but also the people here. It's the first major tournament in a while in where we are progressing through the tournament, not playing well. Historically, when we have been successful, either 2008, 2010, or 2012, we were playing a very, very, very good soccer, very close to the idea that the coach and the team had in mind. It's not the case in this Euro. We have not been able to consistently play good 90 minutes. We have been able to find 20, 25 minutes in each half or so, but we have not been able to play our soccer or our football for 90 minutes straight. And that's a little bit the worrisome of some people that most likely right now we are facing the one of the main competitors for the tournament, because it's Italy, but could also be Belgium if Belgium would have won that game. And right now is the true challenge for us, because we acknowledge that if we do not play at our 100%, it is go home time. So it's the scary part that we have not been able to play our best football. But on the other side, even if not playing our best football, we are in the semi-final. So it's that trade-off that the media and the people are scared of.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm about to ask this question, but in that extra time, were you missing Morata? Because you had 17 shots on goal in 30 minutes compared to 3 shots in the first half and 7 shots in the second half and 8 shots in target in 30 minutes compared to 2 shots on target the whole 90 minutes. Was it a case? I don't know how you didn't score. I dread to think. I haven't looked at it, but I dread to think what your XG would have been in 30 minutes of football.
I would think that even with Morata, the game plan and the shots would have been very similar. I think that Gerard Moreno was not truly lucky. There were a couple of shots that he missed and they were not supposed to be missed, or at least not missed in that way. But I think that Sommer was the key player of the game. If you exclude the penalty shootout in where Unai Simon stopped 2 and pushed Vargas to do not hit the goal in another penalty, I think that Sommer was the key player of the game. So credit to him and not blame our players. That's my philosophy, at least at this stage. And I do not think that with Morata in the field would have been very different.
I've just had a quick look. The XG for Spain in extra time was 2.
Wow, that is mad. In
30
minutes of football.
1.43 for the first half of extra time and 0.57 for the second half. That's crazy. Considering it was only 2.94 for the whole 120 minutes.
That's ridiculous. Rob, have you got any questions for these two on either of their games so far?
I think I thought that Italy were they were very impressive. I'd agree that they deserved the win. I was maybe a bit disappointed that I think because it was such a good game, and for large parts of it was very end to end, and I think we were denied the grandstand finish by, should we just say, some game management.
Well, I heard a stat today that what was it, in the last 27 minutes the ball was actually only in play for 9 minutes of it.
Yeah, that was on Planet FPL.
Yeah, I heard James say about that, and I think James also spoke about it, but I noticed it at the time in between Belgium having a free kick, we still managed to make a sub and take another minute and a bit out of the game, making a sub, which you don't see anywhere else. But yeah, there was definitely some
shithousery.
Let's not call it that, because
I was nice and I said it was game management, and
it's tactical, because if England did it, it'd be tactical. So let's say it's some older heads knowing how to win football matches. Let's go with that.
I mean, I thought there was probably something that we hadn't seen from this Italian side that I think they've been renowned for over the years, and I thought it was quite refreshing to see that they haven't changed. Still playing brilliant football at times. I think we mentioned Insigne's goal. It was a great finish, but I'm not sure the Spanish defence are going to give him that sort of time and space to run at him, because they know what's going to come now. I'd just be interesting to see how Spain set up, moving forward, and especially with that sort of 240 minutes in 2 games. It's you could see, in like how you said, that Morata just probably couldn't play any longer. That's why he brought him off, and it'll be interesting to see what the recovery's like, because he was really good in that Croatia game, linking up the play in that last third, and I think for all of his inadequacies, shall we say, in front of goal, he was a very important player in the second round game for you.
Yeah.
Right, let's talk about that game then tomorrow, Spain and Italy. Let's come to you first, James. Spinazzola's injury, how important is that going to be for you guys, being out, with him being out? How important is that?
I think
because sorry, just quickly, arguably he's been the player of the tournament so far.
I think he's definitely been Italy's player of the tournament. I don't think many people would question that. I think anybody that hadn't watched Serie A was probably shocked at how high he gets and how attacking he really is, especially for what would be a conventional left back compared to a left wing back. If we were playing a 5, he's been playing in a 4 back and getting that high, and it's become quite an important way in which Italy play, because when he goes high, you see that the right back, be that Di Lorenzo or Florenzi, doesn't go anywhere. He stays with Chiellini and Bonucci as almost a protection to make sure it isn't 2, to make sure there is always 3 back. And that's why sometimes against a team that are, let's say, going to be more of a challenge, I feel like Locatelli is a better option in that midfield because he's a little bit more defensive. But Spinazzola's injury, how big do I think it is? I think it's going to be quite big, because you look at the replacement to come in, which is going to be more than likely Emerson, and there's a real drop in quality there for me, and there's a real drop in the role that he's able to do, that you may now find that Italy almost switch the way the sides they're going to play down, that Emerson now may become the wing back that looks to sit, and Di Lorenzo may be the one that plays the Spinazzola role but on the other flank and goes forward, because Di Lorenzo does that naturally. Anyway, the talk in Italy at the moment is that there could be possibly a return to the 3 back and almost go a 3-5-2. But even in that system, I think Emerson still plays as a left wing back, left mid. I think that role would be perfectly suited for Spinazzola, but obviously we haven't got him anymore.
Roll, you must be confident hearing that from James.
Absolutely.
He felt better than he did 10 minutes ago.
No, but I mean, the good thing is that I think that right now there is going to be a good fight, let's say, on the left flank of Spain, Jordi Alba or even Gaya, very offensive left backs against Di Lorenzo, who is also at this time the attacking right back of Italy. So I think that most of the game is gonna be played there. I don't see Azpilicueta and Emerson facing too much each other, and I think that everything would happen in the Spanish left side and Italy's right side.
Yeah, this is why I'm convinced it will be a 5 back for Italy, because I think that kind of, as Raul said, that attacking wing backs for Spain, especially we've seen how possession hungry Spain are and how high they're probably going to try and press us. I think playing a 4 back and trying to push wing backs on might almost be suicide against the Spanish. And I think a 5 back or a 3 centre backs and then your 2 wing backs supplementing the midfield might be the system that we revert back to tomorrow.
Is Spinazzola integral to the way that Italy play? Like, you mentioned that you might have to change formation. Is that literally because Spinazzola's injury and like this fucks everything up for Italy? Is it a case of that bad? Because I don't know.
I think, as I said, I think it could be very well that the role should just change and Emerson comes in and is almost told that you're not going forward tonight unless we're 1-0 down, 20 minutes chasing the game, and he gives Di Lorenzo then the license to go forward, because I think when we look, if Spain are going to play with this attacking three, if you push two wing backs on and you're leaving Chiellini and Bonucci, I hate to say it, there ain't a lot of pace left in there behind if you've got three attackers running at them. So it could just be that we change kind of not the system, but the side we look to attack down more. But for me, I think it would make more sense to play three centre-backs, bring another one in next to Bonucci, and then play your two wing-backs, because then we're almost playing the same way we do with Spinazzola, throwing the wing-backs up high, but you're giving Bonucci and Chiellini another man back there as protection, and I think that might be able to counter kind of the Spanish wing backs pushing high and overlapping a little bit better for me.
Well, go on, Raul. What were you going to say?
I was going to ask James, if you still play with the four at the back, do you think that Insigne would switch sides and play as a right wing, or do you think that he will remain in the left, even though he would get less balls or would be less involved as it would be on the right?
I think that was one that I wanted to question you about, is what do you think is Spain's kind of more defensive wing back? Obviously, Jordi Alba goes on. If it's going to be Llorente at right back, is Llorente's normally the one that's a little bit more defensive? I know he's normally a midfielder.
Correct.
So
I think that Azpilicueta is going to start in the right side, and he's the defensive right back.
Yeah.
And you would have a huge opening with Jordi Alba, because we have seen for the last 2-3 years at Barcelona and right now at Spain that he's very, very, very good offensively, but he struggles in defense unless he has three center backs as last season at Barcelona, but that's not the case at Spain. So our weakest spot in defense is the left back, and that means Jordi Alba.
Yeah, so I think it could be a possibility. I don't think they'll start on opposite flanks. I think you'll still see the flanks that we've seen Insigne out on the left. I think it will still be Chiesa out on the right. But I think if we went to a 3-back and almost played a 3-5-2, I think Insigne would be pushed further on as kind of the man that would sit behind Immobile and kind of given a free role to play in and behind Immobile and kind of go at Spain's centre-backs more on kind of an over-the-top through ball pace, looking to then stretch them to maybe give Immobile a one-on-one against the other centre-back. So I think if we go to a 3-back, Insigne is probably more likely to come in central and play as kind of off the recognised striker for me.
So a number 10 behind Busquets, or in between Busquets and the centre-back.
Yeah, and I think that could be key, is obviously Busquets, one, is not in the twilight of his career, but, probably hasn't got the legs as much as he used to in playing 240 minutes. I think it's another kind of area we can look to exploit that. I think Insigne is probably the quickest player we've got, and being in those half gaps between a holding mid and two centre-backs, I think he creates more danger. And if anything, I think it then frees Immobile up to play a little bit more freely and maybe only be up against one centre-back compared to with the wider system, he's almost trying to find space between two centre-backs.
Correct.
Raul, obviously Spain have played now 120 minutes in the last two knockouts, but they've made a lot of substitutions. So do you think that will still affect the side, or do you think that they'll...
Yeah, absolutely. We have seen 5 games, 5 different lineups. So we are 99% sure.
I'm not going to ask you to predict the lineup then.
Okay, Unai Simone in goalkeeper, and then you pick up the rest. Okay, that's fine. No, but I mean, 5 different games, 5 different lineups, 6 games, most likely 6 lineups. That's what we all are guessing. And Luis Enrique had a press conference a couple of hours ago, and he kind of hinted that he is training with 24 players, and the 24 players are able to play 90 minutes. So we assume that there would be some changes. Media are starting to question if Pedri and Koke, they have started the 5 games first 2 games with Rodri, the next 3 games with Busquets. Perhaps Pedri and Koke could see started on the bench. And most likely, if that's the case, Thiago is the guy to bring in, because the plan for Spain is very simple. We need to protect ourselves with the ball. We know that if we try to keep up the pace of the Italy team, they're gonna be better than us. So we need to slow down the game, keep the ball, long possessions, a lot of passes between center backs to the holding midfielder, and try to run out of patience for Italy. I think that's the key for the Spanish side, to move the ball as much as possible and to do not give them enough opportunities to launch breakaways, or to give them the ball to combine with key passes. We know that they have been very successful with the possession as well, more direct than we are. But we know that they have been able to find the spaces in between lines. And as James was saying before, we are gonna press high, but we know that our weakness is these spots in between lines whenever we press, and Italy is able to find those spaces. If they find those spaces, it's gonna be game over for us. So we need to keep the ball, slow down the pace, and ensure that Italy doesn't get the ball as often as they have been getting the ball in the last games.
So
Yeah, because
essentially,
historically, oh, sorry, go on, Rob. What were you gonna-
so essentially, you're saying that for Spain to win, they've got to make it the most boring game of football we've ever seen.
Most likely, yes. That's a good approach.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
slow it
because
right down.
historically, and you normally have between 65 and 70% possession, right? Generally, when you're playing, do you think that's going to be similar in this game? Do you think you'll be able to do that against this Italian side? And James, I guess I'll let you answer the question first, Roll. But then James, do you think you'll let Spain do that?
For me, I think that's the plan. I'm not saying that we are going to execute it, but that's the plan. 65, 70% of the possession, and also very long possessions. Not only the percentage, but perhaps that every time that we get the ball is a minute and a half possession to slow down the game. If after that minute and a half, we lose the ball and they need to get the ball for 45 seconds, 30 seconds, that's okay, but at a slower pace.
James, are you happy with that type of position? Do Italy play well in that position normally?
I think I looked at it today. I think we've only had about an average of 55-56% possession anyway. And I think the only game we had less possession than the other team was the Switzerland game in the group stage, which bemused me that we had somehow less possession than Switzerland. I think it could be Italy's game plan to almost let Spain try and overplay themselves, which we might have seen a little bit in the group stage. I think that Sweden game, it was just almost a lot of possession, but not really doing a lot with it. And I think when you've obviously discussed about playing so much football already, I like the sound that Pedri might not be in, because I think he's brilliant and I think he's a real danger. But I think the fact Italy might just be a little bit coy with it and just maybe stand off Spain, let them have it and kind of set traps in kind of the middle of the park. Obviously, that midfield 3 for Italy against a midfield 3, I would presume, for Spain is going to be an interesting battle. I think that's where it's going to be won or lost for me. And I think setting traps and just maybe inviting Spain onto us, and then breaking, or maybe even just letting themselves play that way for 60 minutes and just really kill themselves for the football they've been through. And then in that last half an hour, I think, we've got a good amount of players we can bring on that doesn't wholly drop the quality in that Italian team. And then being able to almost play Spain at their own game for that last half an hour, I think could be a tactic that we look to use.
Mm-hmm.
Roll, before we move on to fantasy assets, just we've heard Sarabia is injured or might be injured. I don't know if you've heard anything other than a maybe, but if he is out, do you think Olmo comes in or potentially Moreno comes in? Or
that's the logical sub that Dani Olmo, especially, he had a quite good game for the second half and then the extra time. So Olmo is the most likely replacement. And then media is started to wonder once again if Gerard Moreno and Morata can play together on top instead of Ferran. But to be seen, if I would have to bet today, the front three would be Ferran, Olmo, Morata.
I'm sure
Okay.
you'd probably want Varane up against Emerson, really, to just really try and get at him.
Rob, the thing is that we have not seen Ferran taking too many 1v1s opportunities. For whatever reason, we don't know why, but we have not seen him taking the chance. And Dani Olmo is the one that is taking more 1v1s. But they interchange positions quite often, especially because Olmo is also on corners, etc. So I would look forward for that matchup, Dani Olmo versus Emerson. That's the one that I look for.
Yeah, I was just looking at it earlier, and on the UEFA website, they almost do a template of where everybody plays for that kind of period. And I was shocked to look that Varane almost sits and is in the same circle as Morata or Moreno. He sits very central, and that's why I was shocked that there hasn't been more talk about Oyarzabal. I think he's the one that, for me, from what I've seen of him and watching stuff on him, he seems the one that's more likely to be a bit more direct and a bit more go at a man and try and go past him. And that's why I've been shocked that we've seen so little of him in the tournament for me.
Yep, he has been a quite usual sub, but indeed, he's a player that at Real Sociedad, he takes one-on-ones, he takes the responsibility of the team to get to the line and make a good cross, and he's not afraid of losing 1v1s once in a while. But from the starting 11 options, I think that Dani Olmo is the guy who is going to be looking for 1v1s.
Okay, let's look at fantasy options then, or what you guys think for fantasy. James, I'll come to you first. From an Italian perspective, who should we be looking at to bring in? Or should we be looking at to bring in anyone?
Well, obviously, we're going to get to see the lineups before the game, fantasy-wise, so that's a big plus. I think there's probably less uncertainty in the Italy team compared to, I don't think anybody's got a clue what England are going to do the day after. So, obviously, Spinazzola is going to have to be replaced, and I'm sure a lot of people had him in their lineups. I think the obvious one to go to is Emerson, which will be obviously saving you a little bit of money as well. For me personally, as I discussed earlier, I don't think I'll go Emerson. I think I'll switch across to Di Lorenzo because I think he'll be the one that's probably more likely to give an attacking return plus a defensive return if there's going to be a defensive return for Italy. In moving into the midfield, I think Barella got his goal against Belgium, and if his Serie A form is anything to go off, normally when there's one, there's a couple more that follow. He seems to be quite a streaky player for a midfielder with goals that he'll pick up a cluster in 5 or 6 games and then go 10 games without one. So Barella's another one that I've earmarked to maybe come into my fantasy lineup. Insigne is the obvious choice, attacking wise. Chiesa as well, if we presume that Chiesa will start again over Berardi, even though I thought he was quiet against Belgium, and I don't think Berardi particularly deserved to lose his place. And I think everyone's got to have 3 forwards. So if you've got the money, Immobile, as I said, he could all of a sudden think that he's in a Lazio shirt and score 3 goals in 25 minutes and send us through before half time. But I think everyone's going to have 3 forwards, and if you're hedging your bets in this game, Morata and Moreno are slightly cheaper, and having Immobile there as well, you're going to guarantee yourself 1 attacker in the final.
For those like me that don't have any Italian midfielders, so I've got Immobile and a couple of defenders. Out of the 3 midfielders, who would be your number 1, number 2, and number 3 choice?
I think you've got to have had Insigne the last 2 weeks. I'm very disappointed in you, Sham, that you haven't had Insigne.
This is why he's ranked where he is.
We won't bring that up. I earmarked Chiesa before the tournament as the player to watch, and I think he was poor against Belgium compared to what I'd said. And I would prefer to see Berardi back in tomorrow. I don't think Berardi's done anything to lose his place. So for me, it would be Insigne. Then you're picking the other winger, and then my third choice.
Barella.
Yeah, Barella, because we don't get any points for penalties if it goes that far. Because I'm looking at Jorginho, but the odds of a penalty in normal time probably don't outweigh Barella, who's probably a little bit more attacking in normal time. So yeah, probably Barella for me.
Okay, Raul, I'll come to you. Same question. Who should we be looking at fantasy-wise, or should we be looking at anyone from Spain fantasy-wise?
I assume that most of the people would be looking, that's my guess, to either 3 or 4 players from each team, 3 or 4 players from Italy and Spain. Unai Simon is a good choice, but personally I would go for Donnarumma. That's a fair assessment that I have. So personally I have Donnarumma. So talking about one defender, if you are looking for attacking returns, for sure that's Jordi Alba. Otherwise, you could go for Laporte. That's the guaranteed spot at centre backs. It's a question between Pau Torres or Eric Garcia. We know that the 2 left backs have not been working together as good as we expect them to be. So perhaps Eric Garcia could see himself again in the starting lineup. And then in the midfield, you flip a coin and you decide between Dani Olmo and Ferran Torres. That's my guess. I would not go for Pedri. I love Pedri. As James mentioned, he's a differential player in the pitch, but I don't think that he's a differential player in fantasy. His assist ratio is not as good as we expect it to be. He has never been a goal scorer. So I would not recommend him to pick Pedri nor Busquets. And then if you need to pick a center forward, I would wait until the lineup is released and pick either Morata or Gerard Moreno, because I don't think that both of them would start. I think that it's going to be Morata starting. If both of them start, you guys know that my feeling is with Gerard Moreno, so I would pick that one.
Okay.
I think,
right. Anything?
Whilst,
sorry, go on, Rob.
Whilst we're just on this, because Joel, who's in the chat, has just said, would we be hedging our bets in this game or go all in on Italy? It sounds like you both think should maybe hedge the bets a little bit and not go all in on a team in this particular fixture, because you think that Italy have been the strongest side, but Spain have got the quality there to just surprise and just turn it on and surprise everyone. Maybe is that the general consensus amongst?
Yeah, I was just getting up. Obviously, I'm sure we're going to discuss teams and lineups going into the semi-finals fantasy-wise. But I'm on my last draft. I've got 5 Italy and 3 Spain. So still backing Italy a little bit, but I think giving myself that Spanish coverage of at least 3, but that does include Pedri. Now Raul's got me a little bit scared Pedri isn't going to play, so I might have to have a change around there. But I think if you're looking at a fantasy perspective, it would be too risky to go all in on one compared to the other. I think it is going to be a close game, and I both me and Raul are going to disagree on who we think is going to win, but either team could go through. And I think if you go all in, you're really leaving yourself short for a final if you get that decision wrong.
Okay. Before we move on, then let's get that prediction, James.
I'm saying, and you're all going to hate me for this, 0-0 penalties, Italy.
I thought we said that if it's a boring game, Spain win.
so James, you say 0-0, Italy wins in penalty kicks, and I have a heart attack, right? That's
No, I have a heart attack first, and then you have a heart attack. Yeah, I just think both strikers are, let's be honest, pretty poor. Both defenses are pretty good. I could just see this really. I don't think it will be a boring game. I think it will be a football purist game where everyone will be trying to work each other out for too long, and before you know it, we'll all be staring down the barrel of another penalty shootout.
I think for me that's the thing. Enrique versus Mancini. It's just a fascinating contest that tactically that they're going to be having tomorrow evening. I can't imagine it being like an end-to-end thriller-minute game, but I can imagine it being just an interesting watch more than anything.
Roll prediction.
1-0 Spain, and fully agree with Rob that I think that is going to be one of those games that coaches are going to stream during coaching trainings and stuff like that. But for the fans, it's not going to be very interesting. But for people that really care about football, tactics, movements, spaces, it's going to be a very interesting game.
One for the purists, I think, is what we'd say.
100%.
Rob, what are you going to say? Prediction.
I think I'm gonna go 2-1 Italy after extra time. I think 1-1.
I'm going to go 1-0 1-0 Italy in extra time.
I think if it goes to extra time, I think I have to back Italy because Spain have played so many minutes, and I think the longer the game goes on, the easier it's going to be for Italy to be able to have control of the ball. Like James said, like that first hour they might give up the possession to the Spanish, but then for that last half an hour, 25 minutes, they're going to get at them, and I think Spain need to get a goal early when they've got control of the ball, and then let Italy have to come out a bit earlier than they plan to.
Yeah.
Right.
What I was looking for, and sorry, Sam, is that Spain average age is 26.5, and I think that Italy is much older than Spain, so that could be an advantage for Spain, perhaps, if we go into extra time. I'm just looking for good stats that favor my team. 27.77. So the Spanish squad is around 2 years older than Spain, and we know that Chiellini and Bonucci, they are older than Forest.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You've seen how Chiellini and Bonucci love a clean sheet. They'll die for that clean sheet tomorrow. They will die for that clean sheet tomorrow.
Right, before we move on, boys, is there anything else you want to say about this game?
Just also that when we play tomorrow, it now becomes the Euros most played fixture. There's a little fact for everyone.
Oh, interesting.
There you go.
Right, Rob, let's go over to your section, Pandas Pictures. If you've got any questions, please drop them in the chat and we'll get them covered.
Well, we've only got a couple because I might have forgotten to have downloaded them. And
you're not blaming me for one. Oh.
Well, you never message. Normally, you message me to say there's pictures ready for you.
Yeah.
So first up, we've got this. We spoke a little bit ago about the shithouse. Well, no, the game management, the Italian side. But before all of that happened,
did that.
Immobile with his when Barella was dancing through on goal and he's lying on the floor, and then as the goal goes in, he has a quick look around and it's just like, oh, I can get up now. Alan Shearer said it was clever, but he doesn't like it, and I think that's the agreement of most people.
Yeah, it was made even better that I think the commentator was screaming that Chiesa scored when Barella buried it in the net as well, which just made me chuckle. Yeah, well, I've got Chiesa in. No, I don't have. No, I had Chiesa in my fan team, and I was going crazy about that. And it wasn't even him. It was disappointing. Next up, the rest are all England-based ones, but we can have a giggle. So we've got the newly crowned Roberto Carlos. This picture was actually liked by the great man himself on Instagram. Roberto Carlos actually liked the picture and put some clapping emojis underneath it. And I think it even said sent Luke Shaw a message after the game on Wednesday to say great performance, which I think he's. I mean, as a United fan and seeing what Luke Shaw's had to go through in the last few years with the injuries and stuff, it's been quite nice to see him put in performances. Although I don't think he's comparable to Roberto Carlos quite yet. We'll wait until he bangs in a free kick on
on Wednesday night, and then we can start talking about the comparisons. I don't think we'll see anything like that. Speaking of in comparisons with other great players, Mbappe versus Harry Maguire. Goals at Euro 2020, French Wonder Kid 0, Slabhead from down the road 1. I'd like to mention that on Saturday night I was at a friend's house, and we mentioned about Harry Maguire, and I stuck a bit of money on him to score. So yeah, I got that. And then finally, this image that's come out today is brilliant. So if those that have seen the England account on Twitter, the players were all having a relaxing day in the pool with some unicorns, inflatable unicorns, and then someone called for Bukayo Saka on a unicorn to be on a £20 note. So there you go. Message to the
Saka on
Bank
a
of
£20
England.
note.
This time next week I want a £20 note with Saka on a unicorn coming out. And that is the end of Panda's picks for this week, because I forgot half of them.
Right. Let's move on then to look at teams and plans. So who we got first? Rob?
Let's go with James first. So
James, what are you planning to do with your team?
Obviously, I got. I'm going to call it a tactical wonder class, but slightly lucky with my captaincy this week. I wanted a differential, so went with Luke Shaw and got 24 points.
Nice.
I was really struggling. As you can see, I still had Forsberg in my starting 11 because I didn't have enough players going into the game. So with Spinazzola out, obviously Forsberg will come out. I'm basically leaving the spare goalkeeper as Stecklenburg because I think clean sheet and goalkeeper returns are probably least likely of the three. So at the moment, I'm going Insigne, Di Lorenzo, Barella, Immobile, and Laporte all in. So that gives me 1 Danish, 5 English, 5 Italians, 3 Spanish going into this, which I think then covers me off with all the transfers for whoever makes it through, and it leaves $500,000 in the bank if I need to make some moves for the final.
Cool. Roll, let's look at your team.
Okay.
What are you planning to do?
So I think that I have, excluding Sarabia, 5 players that are no longer part of the tournament. So I'm bringing Pickford for sure because I have Donnarumma, so it would be pointless to bring Unai Simon. And between Schmeichel and Pickford, I'd rather have Pickford. Then I'm bringing Luke Shaw, most likely. A defender from Italy, I would say. Still unsure if it would be Emerson or Di Lorenzo. I would stick to Berardi because I don't have any other option. And I'm bringing another English midfielder. Still unknown, but I think that I would go for Mount. Perhaps Grealish, but I don't think that he's going to play. Perhaps Sancho, because he had a very, very good game. And then in front, I have one extra opening. Still unknown if I would bring Immobile or Morata. I think that if Morata starts, and that should be the case, I think that I will bring Morata. That's it.
Okay. Rob, let's go on to yours then.
So, I mean, I had quite a good week with Harry Maguire sitting there.
Let's not talk about your week. Just tell us what you're doing.
So what I'm going to be doing, obviously, Depay, Kimpembe, Dumfries can get out. I'll probably move Sarabia out as well. I might take a punt on Olmo. I'll probably bring in another defender, probably Luke Shaw from England. I'll probably bring in, after what James has said, probably Di Lorenzo from Italy. And then I do need to bring in an attacker, or a forward from. I'm guessing I'm probably going to have to be from Italy, so I'm probably going to have to go with Immobile for Depay, because I've already got Morata there. Unless I wanted to take the gamble on Moreno, but I just don't fancy it. I'm sorry, Raul, but I had him I had him in match day 1, and I mean I have thought about moving Berardi out, because that would be 4 transfers and I've got an extra one to kill. And I've thought about Berardi, but I'll probably end up leaving him in if we think that he's going to start.
Okay, right. We haven't got any questions, so that is the stream done. Rob, have you got any updates that we want to quickly share, or we done it all on the previous?
Yeah,
previous one?
we did everything in the previous one. Although James, you're also through into the semi-finals of the reps competition, where you'll be facing off against the
Belgium.
the
Belgium.
Belgian rep who's top of the league, so that's me gone.
No, that's the other James is against the Belgian rep. You're against Zakar, the Russian rep.
Oh, he's one behind me. All I care about is beating you, Rob, because you're still 3 points ahead of me. If I can get ahead of Rob into third, I'm happy. That's my week.
Another person that didn't make the screenshot from the main pod league. There, so.
Yeah, and Sham's
well behind.
nowhere.
Sham.
Sham's a sham.
He takes these punty picks, and I mean, let's be fair though. You got quite unlucky with the Friday games. I think you only had about 6 or 7 points after Friday's.
I got no returns.
I had 8 points off 5 players, and then still ended up with 64 because of Luke Shaw. Yeah,
legend.
That captaincy on Luke Shaw was just something to behold. That is, whilst everyone else and everyone and his dog were jumping on Kane or Sterling, you just went no, Luke Shaw. I
was the most relieved man in England when Harry Kane came off after 2 goals. I've never been so glad to see Dominic Calvert-Lewin in my life.
Was heart in mouth when I mean, we didn't really speak about that earlier. That volley, where it just dropped to Kane. I was out of my seat. Like I thought,
perfect hat trick, wouldn't it? If he'd scored it.
Yeah, it'd have been left foot, right foot, and header.
Yeah.
But oh my, if that volley went in, that would have been up there with. It reminded me of the Zidane one in the Champions League final. It was the same sort of distance and the same sort of movement of the ball, and it was just. Yeah, it was a shame it didn't go in, but then we scored from the corner anyway. Yeah. Henderson scored.
We'll see plenty of that for Man City next year. That's one for James, the other
James. Right, we're not sure when we're going to be recording for the final. It will either be Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. It does depend on which reps go through and when they're available. So we'll keep you updated on Twitter on that. James and Raul, thank you very much for joining. We both really appreciate it. Good luck for the game tomorrow. And,
good luck, James.
Yeah, good luck, Raul. Well, not too much luck, just enough.
just enough.
Just enough.
Right. To the listeners and the viewers, thanks very much for joining us tonight. We will catch you Thursday, Friday, or Saturday this week, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.